Welcome to the One Day at a Time Recovery Podcast, where my guests share their stories of addiction, how they recovered, and the tools and practices they use to stay sober now. Tracy, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Arlena.
Listen, the title of your book, Pretty Wrecked: Confessions of a Teen Addict, struck me like lightning. I was like, wow, that could have been my story. And after reading your book, congratulations, job well done.
Thank you so much. It felt good for whatever reason, writing it and getting it out. So
Was
years after
published
the fact.
2024?
Yes, April 2024.
Nice. How has the feedback been?
Really good. I love reading the reviews, of course. And so that makes me feel wonderful reading them on Amazon and Goodreads. People seem to love the audiobook. For whatever reason. Yes, they did. So I recorded the book. So it's me. In fact, it was funny because there were a couple scenes during the audiobook that the person that was recording was like, I need you to read that again. This time, maybe not crying so hard.
Oh, really?
Because it was very emotional to see me reading me and re-experiencing some things. But the audiobook seems to be doing really well, which is wonderful. I'm just grateful that the word is getting out there.
Yeah. I have to ask, I have a lightning round, but I have to ask, what were the stories that made you cry?
Probably, without giving too many spoilers, but probably writing about the loss of my dog. Really like a real hitting bottom moment. The loss of my dog and my grandfather, and that kind of re-experiencing that deep brokenness.
Yeah.
And being really back in that moment was my husband just kept bringing me bowls and bowls of potato chips. I jokingly like to say that potato chips are my drink of choice because exactly it's a potato chip. It's okay. But he was just like, I was just like eating bowls of potato chips during that story. And then writing about, it was actually assaulted. So writing about the assault was very emotional. And my friend from college, Ashley, and not being able to find her, just that loss of that friendship has been sad.
Yeah. Yeah. The loss of friendship is always brutal. If especially with like women friendships, you think you're going to be friends forever. Relationships end. It's a death of sorts.
It is. And I really have tried to find her. In fact, a joke my friend Kelly mentioned was we need to start to Ashley. Because I've really gone to all sources. I have not checked the obituaries, which is, I guess I just am not doing. Yeah, I'm avoiding it, consciously avoiding it. But I would love to reconnect with her and see how she is.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. We'll have to dig into that a little more. We do start with a little game called the lightning round, which is actually very slow. So don't panic. I'll give you time to respond. But I do like to front load the episode with resources, right? So the podcast is largely about providing resources so that people can change. When you first got sober, so this was over 30 years ago now, were there any books that really helped you early on?
The big book.
Yeah.
I will say I'm a child of the 12 steps, and 30 years ago, oh my gosh, right? How do you say 30 years? So really any of the books and my 12-step program. For me, I found it worked for me. So I would say those were the main ones. That, and it wasn't a book, but it was a lot of 90s movies, just staying in and going to meetings and watching movies. In fact, I'm a plethora of movie quotes because I didn't know how to be out in the world without alcohol or drugs. And so I just stayed at home and watched movies when I wasn't working. So I think 90s movies helped to save me as well.
Yeah, listen, it's a sufficient substitute, as they say.
Yes, I still love them. It's still very nostalgic for me.
Yeah, for sure. What was your favorite 90s movie?
Oh my goodness. Anything stupid, like with Adam Sandler or movies like Tommy Boy, just like the kind of slapstick, stupid comedy, which some hold up and some do not. So I have rewatched some of them. I'm like, that's rough. We just watched Something About Mary with our daughters the other day. That was so funny to see their reactions, because you just don't make movies like Something About Mary anymore today. That's not PC. I think wouldn't get they wouldn't get produced. And so watching their faces in the movie was amazing.
That was I remember laughing out loud to that one for sure. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
funny.
But I
Okay,
would
so
say,
you've
but
been
to answer your
sober.
question, so go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, I feel bad thinking about resources. I was trying to think, what did again, I was 19 years old, going to a lot of meetings, but I would even say it's less books that were resources and more people, listening to people that had gone me before, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, and taking that wisdom was hugely important and helpful and helped guide me in the direction I wanted to go.
That is so interesting. Yeah, there's something about hearing people's stories, their transformation stories. That is something that churches do. They call it a testimony, but it's like this order thing that we do as a culture for millennia is
Yeah.
passing on stories. And I think people really resonate with the stories of transformation. Yeah.
Because we're all hurting from something. No, nobody's getting out of this unscathed. So it's nice when and you can always relate to something. You can always relate to whether it doesn't matter whether it was like a money issue, a relationship issue, a substance issue, whatever it is. You can always relate to a feeling and how that
Absolutely.
person dealt with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody is recovering from something for sure. Yeah. I remember when I had my first son, I was so worried. I was talking to a friend of mine. I was like, oh, I'm so worried I'm going to mess him up. And she's like, Arlena, nobody escapes childhood without some issues, right? It's
Mhm.
what we do on the other side that really matters. So I
Agreed.
love that. So you've been sober for decades now, and in the rooms, as they say, there's always these little cliches and things. Has there been like a mantra, a cliche, a quote that has been like a reoccurring theme in your recovery?
Definitely. And it's actually something that I talk about when I speak with adults and teenagers. I love talking to teenagers and high schoolers. And I think it's applicable to, again, anything and anyone. And that's make the next right decision.
Mhm.
It really, I always say it's simple. It's not easy, but make the next right decision. And I call it, the phrase that I give is being a nerd, NERD. So next NE right decision.
Oh,
So be a nerd.
I love that. You know what's interesting about that idea of making the next right decision is that it requires you to be in the present moment.
Yep.
And it requires
And
you to
aware.
yeah, and aware and to tune into, like, your internal compass. Yeah, I love that.
And again, it's a simple concept. It's not an easy concept to practice.
Yeah, but we are so reactionary, but with practice
Exactly. And I honestly, it's all practice, right? It
yeah.
doesn't stop. You've been in the rooms for longer than I have. And there's always practice to be done. I'm not cured. I'm not perfect. I still have trash in my trash can that exists or things that happen, like the metaphor that I use. So it's about practice. And I just feel lucky that I've been given the tools to recognize it and then actively practice change.
You know what's funny? I always think of it like exercise. Everybody gets it that you could go to the gym every day for a year and get into good shape, but if you stop going, your body kinda defaults back to factory setting.
It's a perfect analogy. Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I feel like that's why sobriety is a practice because we are like hardwired, literally. Our neurology, the survival circuits that are developed in childhood, we repurpose them in adulthood. And so we have to be very conscious about what we let in and the thoughts and actions. But yeah, to me, that's kind of why it makes sense that I think there is this expectation that if you've been sober for a long time, that we expect it of ourselves, right? I should know better by now.
No, yeah, you do. It gets better. It gets
Yeah.
easier to recognize those things, but you're not perfect. I'll speak for myself. I'm not perfect in any means, and I make mistakes and say the wrong thing. And the nice thing is when I do that, I can take a step back because I clear mind, right? Clear conscience, clear mind. And I can say, oh, you know what? That was not the way I wanted to phrase that. I apologize. Let me try it.
Yeah. I love that. I love the practice of the 10 step, the daily inventory, daily self reflection exercises, and meeting those shortcomings with grace and compassion and self love. And yeah. That's what
Agreed.
leads I feel like those are things that lead to longevity, long-term sobriety.
It really does. It's doing those things one day at a time. People, I don't know if they probably ask you the same thing, but oh my gosh, how did you get there? And it's one day at a time. Just like you.
I remember sitting in a meeting one day and some guy, he had the most sobriety in the room and he was like 14 years sober. And he said, the way to get 14 years sober is to stay sober for 14 years. And I was like, I hate you. That's not
Yeah,
helpful.
I know, but it's true. I think that people, for lack of a better way, want like the easy way out, right? They want, maybe I can find more information that will make this more comfortable for me or faster for me, right? Not everything arrives in 48 hours. 30 years did not arrive in 48 hours like Amazon. So it's not like, I almost feel like a muscle, to use your exercise analogy. It's when I am uncomfortable, the real work is happening.
Yeah. Do you find that being able to lean into the discomfort has helped you evolve over the last 30 years?
Oh, definitely. You were also very young when you found recovery. And I always say it's like a gift. I was basically given the book of how to human at 19 years old. That's amazing.
That is so young.
That's amazing. Yeah, it was that or death. So really, it was like served up to me like, you are going to die,
Yeah.
or you need to stop what you're doing and change everything. And I'm grateful that things, I suppose, I don't know if I'm grateful things got bad enough, but that was necessary for me to choose to change everything. And I guess I'm lucky that it started so early that I got used to that muscle of discomfort, and I just work it. Just work the muscle. It's practice.
Yeah. And I feel like it becomes second nature after a while. I don't really even think about it. I just do the things.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. You do the things. And then when you don't do the things, I don't know if you experience this, I'm like very aware of that weight of, oh, I should not have done that. I should not have said that. Or like, I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
sometimes being fully aware all the time, it sucks.
It's a little exhausting at times.
It can be. It really can be. And so
Yes.
I always think I was like 24 years sober during COVID. And I'm telling you, that was what some of the hardest 6 months of my entire recovery.
Was it?
It was, I also had two young kids in the house, right? We were like homeschooling that
Ooh.
because everything was moved remotely. And everybody around me was just down the line. I don't know if that was your experience.
I was alone, so
Oh,
I mean, my
goodness.
husband, we were isolated, so I didn't see anybody drinking or
Oh, so,
using.
and we have a wonderful neighborhood and I love them. And I'm not judging them for drinking wine like everybody else did during COVID, but it was just really hard. So be home with these two young kids. Everybody's just drinking wine around you and you're just fully aware of what's happening there was no off switch. There was no numbing. It was just constant reality. And I remember being like, I need to figure out a way to release this pressure valve. And that is where I learned about potato chips and hot bathtubs and smutty books.
Oh,
So
yay! Listen, I'm a spicy book girl myself. I'm obsessed with all the spicy books on TikTok, but that's a whole nother. We might have to do another podcast on.
we'll do a whole other podcast on that. But really, and I just was like, what do I need for me? And those things, I still love those things to this day.
And we're joking about like some of the non-healthy coping mechanisms, but what other healthy mechanisms did you have to deploy during that time?
In early recovery, I exercised a lot. I started running again and I would run and run, which felt wonderful for my endorphins and also just getting healthy again. I remember in the beginning it was really hard because my lungs were coated in resin.
Were you a pot smoker too?
That was like my favorite.
Oh my God, me too.
It's like definitely by far. I found my home in AA, but like I was way more of an NA girl, if you get my drift.
Okay.
Just if we like averaged out the percentages of drug versus alcohol use, it's much heavier on the drug side. But yeah, so I'm like coughing up this resin. Running was huge for me, and exercise and community. Like I really just being around other people in recovery and getting early to the meeting and staying late after the meeting, being of service. And to this day, I'm a huge service person. I try to instill in my children, find a cause that you're passionate about and lean in.
Mm.
It just, it, of course it helps whatever the cause is, but like, it's just, I think it's just a beautiful thing as a human to be of service in
There's
whatever it is you're passionate about.
I always tell people if you're coming in and just newly sober, you probably don't have very good self-esteem, and service is like talk about a sobriety hack. Get
Mhm.
into service because it's hard to feel bad about yourself when you look into the eyes of gratitude. If someone's grateful for the service that you do, it does help you to feel it's an esteemable act.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just think it's the way that I put it, whether it's exercise, recovery, being of service, working hard, whatever it is, I say feeling good feels good.
Yeah.
And when you feel good and that feels good, you're like, I want more of this. And hopefully that kind of snowballs and becomes a natural part of your life.
Yeah, I love that. I told you this lightning round would be slow.
No.
What do you have a regular self-care practice, whether it's a morning routine? Do you do a set of weekly meetings? Do you go to retreats annually? What does that look like for you?
I'd say exercise at least 6 days a week. I'm very heavy weights. I love weightlifting. I do a lot of cardio too, but weightlifting is my favorite thing. There's something about heavy weights and feeling powerful that just as a 50-year-old woman feels really good. And so I exercise regularly, but I'm very good about listening to myself. If my
Mm.
body or my brain is very much not today, that's a day off. That's okay. I'm not going to kick my ass if I don't want
Yeah,
to or need to every day.
yeah.
I would say I love reading. As I said, I read either every morning or every night, just as that's I'm awake but timeout moment to just
Mhm.
sit and read a book, whether it's nonfiction or fiction. I love to read outside in the sun. I go to meetings, but more as I feel like I need to. So I could end up going to 3 in a week or 3 in a month. It's really what my schedule allows and when I feel drawn,
Mhm.
but I still am actively involved in meetings. Just got the number of a new person the other day that someone was like, hey, I'd really like you to talk to this new person. And I texted her. It's
Right.
like, hey, I'm here to, again, being of service.
Sure.
So those are like and I love getting rid of things. That's actually a self-care practice.
Getting rid of things, I love it.
I do. I don't like things. I don't like stuff in my life. I like to keep it simple.
Love that.
So,
Do you have a
yeah.
spiritual practice?
I'm very I'm trying to think Mother Nature, like Earth Mother. I'm
Okay.
a big environmentalist. I'm on my township environmental advisory council. I pass law, like environmental and sustainability law. I help to pass that in my township. So I'm very speak to the trees kind of
Mm.
person, watch the wind. And that for me is just this kind of spirituality of we're all just small things in this big world helping each other out. The roots of trees. So trees speak to each other underground. Their
Yeah.
root systems help each other out. And I always like to think of myself as how are my roots, right? How healthy are my roots and how am I able to spread that out and help other people or other things around me? So that is my spiritual practice.
That's so interesting. Over the years, I've been doing this for 12 years now and this podcast for 10, but it's so interesting when I ask people what they do for fun. 90% of the people talk about being outside. That's where they feel connected. It's where they feel grounded. It's like the experience of energy or spirituality, however you may experience that. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
I'm so glad to hear that other people feel that way because sometimes
Yeah.
I feel like I'm like a little hippie-ish, but I really am like genuinely like a tree hugger.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, that's really good. I like to ask this of people, and listen, I know you got sober a long time ago, but looking back, is there one thing you wish you would have known earlier in recovery?
They say the phrase, don't quit before the miracle happens. And so you just kind of keep doing it and you keep showing up and doing the best you can. I had no idea how magical my life was going to turn out. One day at a time, doing the work. This did not happen because I just sat there. I did the work. I felt the things. I dug through my trash can. I'm very grateful, like looking back at where I am now, at just how amazing things did turn out.
Yeah.
And some might be luck, but like meeting my husband, and I call him normal, right? He does not have a problem with alcohol or drugs. In fact, he's not normal. He's perfect. Sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, Mr. Perfect. But I'm very lucky. And he's a great dad, and being able to we have two daughters, and raise them in the mindset of recovery, right?
Yeah.
It has been, and all these amazing lessons, and I've been able to teach them about self-esteem and service and admitting your wrongs, right?
Yeah.
Not keeping your wrongs, admit your wrongs, and then discuss and move on. It's been really, I guess, glad that I know what it's like on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. Wouldn't it have been nice to know in the beginning that everything was going to turn out okay, even better than okay?
Completely. Because I think you're doing it for me, and my situation was I was genuinely doing it because it was like, you're literally going to die.
Yeah.
And so I did it. And once I did it, and once I really dove in, like all in, I'm like, I'm doing this, things already did start to improve, and I felt better, and I was exercising, and I was making new friends and all of that. But I still this was not the plan for my life, right? Like when you're growing up and you see a certain adult version of yourself, this was not it. So I'm so grateful now looking back. This is way better than the version I had in my head.
Yeah, I love that. I would have to agree. Same. Yeah, that's great. Let's talk a little bit about kind of how we got here. And I'm always so curious about family of origin because I feel like whatever happens in childhood kind of sets the stage for adulthood. So, what was your family like growing up?
So my mother and father got divorced when I was 6, and my father was an active alcoholic. He died an alcoholic. Really fun person, not a great dad.
Mm,
Everybody's good friend, not a great father type of thing.
yeah.
And after my parents got divorced when I was 6, we did not have a lot of interaction, not a very close relationship.
Mhm.
My mother remarried when I was 12 to my stepfather. Really ended up basically being like a con artist. He ended up being a very sneaky, deceitful, scary, just violent man. And
Violent.
so, yes, he was very it was almost more verbally and like threateningly violent, occasionally physically, but more the threat of violence, especially when you're 12, 13, 14, 15, is this big guy. You don't know. Now being able to look back I'm a counseling psychologist and I understand science. Like my little brain was like at 12 years old, half developed. I didn't know. You just trusted adults, and you're taking all this in. And that's the beautiful thing about a young brain, is the sponge for good, but it's also a sponge for bad when
Right.
you're exposed to that trauma. And he really did a number on me between the ages of 12 to 16. And it got scary enough with him that my mom left him suddenly. Like literally, like I went off to school on a Tuesday and came home and the whole house was packed up. So that was it. That's actually one of those things where it's like a huge trauma that I'm actually still, it's like a piece of my trash can that it constantly comes up for me. It's like losing everything, like losing my home and losing all my belongings at 16. We moved in with my grandparents, and I thought we were only going to be there for a short period of time. And we ended up living with them for 2 years. So all of my stuff in a box in a storage area.
Mm.
And that's when I started drinking and turning to drugs, was after that sudden move. It was like within a month of that at 16 that I was like, this feels like crap. All this trash in the trash can feels awful. And so the metaphor I use is like the drugs and alcohol, put a lid on the trash can. I didn't have to see it. I didn't have to feel it. I didn't have to smell it. And I just wanted to keep that lid on the trash can for as long as I could.
That sounds like you lived in a state of hypervigilance, starting at a really young age, at 12, right? 12 to 6.
Yeah.
So 4 years of constant fear, a threat of violence. So you're hypervigilant. You're a little your little self was probably in a constant state of whatever the opposite of safety is, right? You had no safety. I don't know if you felt abandoned by your birth father.
Yes, at the time, I didn't really know what those words were. Now looking back,
Sure.
of course, yes. And he just stopped seeing me. And I remember one time him calling and I was talking to him on the phone and I didn't hang up the phone and I heard my mom talking to him and she was like, you need to come see her more. You need to call her more. And then every time after that, if he called, I was like, oh, he's calling because my mom called him. So then you
Oh,
felt like it was all fake anyway. He was only doing it because my mom made him.
right. Yeah.
I mean, I'm very lucky, fast forward, I'm very lucky that my dad and I got to a really lovely place of acceptance and understanding, more from my side of the street, but that's the only side you can control.
Yeah.
So before he died. So it was very hard growing up. It definitely shaped my relationships with men
Ugh.
and what relationships should or should not look like. And I was able to really come to a place of peace with him before he died.
What sort of men were you attracting from that? Because I would imagine from that place, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy, that we might shoot our sights a little bit low. It could go either way, right? Either you go super high or you kind of settle. Like, where did you land in all that?
I'd say for my addiction, I was choosing men that I could get drugs and alcohol from, right? Like, to
My
be
kind of
completely
girl.
honest, I didn't really care. I just was like, what are you going to do for me? What can I get from you? Who can you introduce me to? What are you going to be willing to give me for free or get me or whatever? So I was just a true addict through and through, right? So those are the men I chose during my addiction. And then when I got sober, it's funny because just because you get sober doesn't mean you make every good decision,
No,
right?
it usually takes a while.
Just a few frogs, but a lot of them were probably men that I could fix, right? Trying to fix that father situation. Something's wrong with them. If I can heal them, then I
Yeah.
can heal me
Yeah.
type of situation. And definitely dated some duds and definitely dated some nice people, but they were not going to be my forever person.
Mm.
And I remember, I guess I was like 25 or so, and I went to a psychoanalyst. And I said to him, I need to work on this father issue because this is not going to work out for me. I'm not going to be able to pick the right person unless I really, truly dig through this piece of trash and move on.
That's really wise.
And I was very lucky. I think the quote that I said to him was, he's like, well, I'm expensive. And I said, yeah, but you're cheaper than a divorce lawyer.
At 25.
And I knew that was the way it was going to
Wow.
happen.
I'm
So I just
so
was like,
impressed. Yeah.
let's do this. And then it was shortly after I'd really finished up that therapy, if you will, and really came to that beautiful place of understanding with my father that I met my husband. And I was like, oh, is this
Good.
what a healthy man looks like? That's so interesting.
That is so interesting. What was it about that healing process that allowed you to make peace with your past experience? Was it empathy towards your dad? Was it the realization it wasn't your fault? Or what was it for you?
You said it was really both. So I understood that my father was not taught how to love. I knew my grandparents. And after I dug in more, I really realized that having my father love me the way I deserve to be loved is like teaching a 5-year-old trigonometry.
Mm,
They're not going to get it,
yeah.
right? Just the brain power, the understanding, the layers of understanding is just not there. And so once I really accepted that and realized he doesn't know how to do this, I need to forgive him that he doesn't know. And then also I'd had enough recovery at that point. What was it? About 8 years
Wow.
of recovery or so, 7 years of recovery that I was able to understand that I can't control him, right? He's got his own drinking problem and it's not what did they say? Al-Anon, right? You didn't cause it.
Can't
You
control
can't
it.
cure it. Can control it. You can't cure it.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So along empathy, along with the understanding that I can control my side of the street and my reaction to him was huge. And then to your point is that idea of fault versus responsibility. I actually talk about this a lot when I'm talking to teenagers and adults, but I talk to them about the things that happen to you, especially when you're a teenager and you're living with your parents, and all these things that happen to you that aren't your fault, right? They're not your fault. And I feel that, and I am so sorry. They are your responsibility in terms of how you choose to react.
100%.
So I talk a lot about fault versus responsibility. And so once I fully got that with my father, it was like, how do I want to react? How do I want this relationship to feel and look from me, regardless of his reaction, regardless of his input? And that's how I was able to get to a place of peace and understanding.
That's really beautiful. I often tell people if you have a problem with relationships, it's a reflection of what we believe we deserve, right? There's that saying, "We allow into our lives what we believe we deserve on that subconscious level." So it does take some time and some therapy to really get to those root causes and conditions to be able to examine that. And it sounds like you were able to make that transformation, and it's amazing what happens when that gets healed. Then we attract the very thing that is healthy for us.
That's exactly right. And it really did happen not long after. I feel like I really got a place where you could just take that deep breath and like the shoulders relaxed with my dad. And I was like, I'm okay with this. I really am okay. And then I met my husband, and it was a very quick court. And it was like right away.
Love that. And how long?
21 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
I knew on the
amazing.
third day, which I never like a love at first sight person. I am not that sentimental, trust me. But I knew on the third day we dated for 8 months. We got engaged in 8 months, married 8 months after that, and it'll be 21 years.
That's amazing. That's beautiful. And you have two lovely
Two
girls.
daughters. Yeah. Two
Yeah.
teenagers. Yeah. 18 and 14. So two teenage girls.
Okay, you're in the thick of it. 14
Yeah.
is
And
when I lost my
really,
lover love and mine.
we've been really lucky. They're really nice. The older one, the 18-year-old one, is just like the sunshine of the house, and she's going to college in the fall, and it's going to be like a deep loss for our home. She's just
Oh,
lovely. And our 14-year-old, she is just a pistol. She's a lot like me. She is, I'm trying to think of the best example from like the rooms. She is like the honest straight shooter. She's the honest friend.
she's the truth.
She's not in it to make you comfortable or dance for you. She is who she is. And I love it. And then there's also times I'm like, okay, take it down a notch, girl.
Learn a little bit of temperance. Yeah, temper that
Exactly.
with a little bit of kindness and compassion. I love people who are direct because you always know where you stand with them. They're very like I learned this idea of the truth teller. I was the truth teller in my family. I would call people out. I was not afraid, and still to this day, I'm not afraid to make people uncomfortable. But when I give a compliment, they know I mean it. Do you know what I mean? Like when you have something positive to say, it holds more weight because they know that you'll be honest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And everybody needs that honest friend.
Yeah.
You need the friend that will just listen. You need the hand holding friend, and you need the sure, I'll meet you out for some, what does my older daughter call it? Retail therapy friend.
Uh-huh.
But you also need the honest friend that's going to be like, get your shit together. Kind of hey, I don't notice this is not working for you, and tell it to you straight.
I
So it
have
sounds like you're
learned
the honest friend.
I have learned to ask. If someone comes to me with something, I have learned to ask, "Did you need me to just listen? Do you want feedback? How may I be of service?"
Oh, see, then you're ahead of me. I'm just like, if you came to me, then you know what you're going to get. You're going to get it.
The only reason I knew that is because I had a sponsor who used to do that for me, and I was gobsmacked. I was like, "I have a choice? What?" I was shocked, but so I thought that was such a baller move that I was like,
It is. I should probably start to practice it, as they say.
yeah, or share it with your daughter.
Yeah,
Save her
exactly.
some heartache. Anyways, so how old were you when you first started using? Do you remember your first time?
Yeah. So I was probably, I'd say 15 when I started to kind of smoke cigarettes and steal a little bit of alcohol from the house and try this and try that. But it was really very quickly, right after we turned 16 and we left my home. We lost the house to
Oh,
leave my stepfather to get out of the house. And conveniently, I'd also started to hang around with people that had access and were using mostly weed and other substances as well. But there's a lot of alcohol and weed around at all times. And I always say it's kind of that biopsychosocial model of
Mm.
addiction, right? I had the biological component. My father was an alcoholic. His mom was an alcoholic. It's just in our blood. It is what it is. So definitely had the alcohol component. I had the psychological component of all of this crap that had just happened to me. My parents' divorce, my stepfather's abuse, leaving our home. So I had the psychological unease.
Yeah. Do you had
That's a nice
trauma?
way to put it.
Lots of
Trauma,
trauma?
exactly. And then I had the social component where I had access, right? I saw
Mhm.
I saw people using successfully and happily, and it was there. One of the things when I talk to high school students is I say, if you hang out with a bunch of swimmers, you're going to jump in the pool. You're going to jump in the pool. You might
Yeah.
not have yet, but if that's what so I was like, just choose who you want to be around. Careful, no judgment. I jumped in the pool, that's for sure. But you just need to be aware. If you're hanging out with swimmers, you're jumping in the pool.
I'm hearing it's interesting you talk to teens a lot, and I'm wondering, I hear that drinking is declining pretty significantly among young people. Are you finding that to be true as well?
I am. I'm finding that drinking is reduced. Gummies are increased a little bit. So using like
THC.
wheat gummies, yeah, exactly. Not like dramatically, but the drinking is definitely reduced because there's this health movement, right?
Mm.
People going to like Soul Cycle or yoga or
Oh
walks
my
with friends. Like
gosh.
truly, it's so
Yeah.
healthy. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so jealous. I was not that person. So they know that they can't be hungover if they're going to a 9 a.m. Soul Cycle friends like class with their friends.
By the
There's a lot
way, I'm a
less.
little jealous that teens can afford to go to Soul Cycle classes.
I'm sorry, darn it.
Aren't they?
So
Yeah.
my daughter actually got a job at a bar, like BARRE, a bar
Oh, bar
workout
class. Yeah,
facility.
sure.
Yes, exactly. So she can take classes for free.
Smart.
She was like, if I get a job there, not only am I getting paid, but I actually get free classes. So great for her. So she's smart because we pick and choose what we will and will not pay for.
Yeah.
And she knows she has to work for other things that she wants, which is a good lesson in life.
Yeah.
Just not going to get everything handed to you. But so what was I talking about before we went off on the bar
Teens,
tangent? Oh,
teens not
THC,
drinking
yes.
so much.
I would also say peer pressure is down.
Yeah.
So whereas in my day, the 90s, early 90s to mid 90s, I do feel like peer pressure was a very real thing. I was probably part of it.
Yeah.
And according to my kids, it's more if you want to do it, if you don't, it doesn't matter.
Mm.
It's not as much pressure to go to the party and drink if you don't want to.
I feel like the pressure is social justice oriented. The younger people are they're very highly moral and have ideas. And I feel like so the pressure is actually probably a little more positive than it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think maybe it's not being directly in their feeds, their social media feeds, but I think we're learning more and more that
Yeah.
alcohol is actually really not good for you. Not even a little bit, right?
The
So
neurotoxin.
the health, exactly. And
Yeah.
I think that the health aspects of it are coming across as well. So yeah, I do see less. It still exists. And so what I do is I come at it more from the safety standpoint
Yeah.
and the awareness and moderation and choosing safe places, right? I never
Yeah.
say no. The metaphor that I use with teenagers is yellow light. So I say, I'm not saying yes because it's illegal and not good for you and all the reasons, so I can't tell you to do it. I'm also not going to say no because no makes things really sexy, right? If you told me no at 16, that's the first thing I'm going to do. So I say just yellow light. I'm just asking for a pause. I'm just asking for a moment of, is this decision going to bring me closer to what I want or my hopes or my dreams? Is it a safe decision or is this going to pull me further away?
Yeah.
And so I just say to them, just take a pause and yellow light. And they seem to get that kind of language. And I give them a choice, right? You give them information and then you give them a choice. And most of the time they make the right choice.
Yeah, I feel like the ones who don't make the right choice are probably saddled with some kind of trauma and need additional information. So the issue of safety is really interesting. Can we talk a little bit about you had some instances in college that I may or may not have been related the way you see it to your drinking, but so you were in that party phase for a while and you quit at 19. So what happened in that period of time?
So yeah, that happened my first semester when I went off to school and I was still drinking and using. So it was in most cases of assault, alcohol is the number one substance, almost 100% of the time,
Yeah.
either by the perpetrator or the person that's assaulted. And I was at a fraternity party and left with somebody thinking we were kind of going back and going to like kind of continue the party in their place, not having any intention of being physical with them. And then I just blacked out and woke up trying to push him
Oh
away
my
and
God.
trying to turn my face away. I verbally saying no, but you're just totally black. You know what I mean? You're totally wasted. And I couldn't really control the situation.
Yeah. And you were 19?
I was 19, yes. So shortly before, I'd say this was in November, and I got sober in January. So I got sober. No, I'm sorry, I got sober in February. So it was like 3 months, 4 months later.
Yeah.
that I got
Did
sober.
you directly feel like your life was in danger due to your drinking because of that situation?
I think that was another piece of trash in the trash can for me, a big one. And I would actually say that, and I don't know if other people would share this, or I think everybody's reaction is different. I denied it. Like for my own mental safety, I was like, I'm not going to actually look at this and deal with this. And it took me years into recovery before I really was able to talk about it. It just was too big and
Yeah.
scary. And
Yeah.
all the feelings about myself, which again, not my fault, regardless of the fact that I drank a lot at this party. So I just want anyone out there to know it's not your fault.
Right.
And there was a lot of feelings around it. And so I kind of stuffed that down for a long time. But that was absolutely one of the big things that happened towards the end of my addiction. That was like this is not working anymore. And I think that
Right.
was the first step for me, was this idea of, I started all of this to put a lid on all of my feelings, and it's not working anymore.
Yeah. That's not uncommon. I was probably 20 years sober before I was able to deal with my childhood sexual abuse, and it takes a really long time. I think it takes a certain level of safety, internal safety, to be able to allow those memories to arise.
Absolutely. And yes, I really tucked that way back in my psyche until I was safe enough, to use your
Yeah.
words,
Yeah.
to look at it.
To look at it. Yeah.
And now I talk about that. So I talk about that to high schoolers as well. And it has a name. It's called the red zone. And it's the first semester freshman year where 50% of sexual assaults happen in your first semester freshman year. And they literally call it the red zone.
50% in your first year.
50% of all sexual assaults that happen during college will happen your first semester freshman year.
Wow.
It's staggering. And the numbers are right now 26% of females, 22% of males will be assaulted in college.
That's intense.
The numbers suck. They're unacceptable.
I can see why you talk to teens so much. That makes a lot of sense. Educate them.
Completely. And I always say this, I'm like, the way that I say it is, I'm not telling you this to scare you, but I am telling you this to scare you. You know,
I was just going to be very afraid.
I'm not trying to ruin your freshman year. I want you to go off. I want you to have a wonderful time, but I also want you to have the information. And so one of the things that I suggest to teenagers is to have somebody be the eyes. That's what I would say to my kid when they go to parties. I say, just somebody choose to say, I'm not drinking at this party. I'm the eyes. I make sure everybody gets home safely. I make sure everybody's not taking drinks from somebody and doesn't know what's in them. They're the eyes, to the best of their ability. And then the hope is that somebody else the next night or the next weekend, they choose to be the eyes, right? And you all just take turns.
That is really wise. Unfortunate that we have to do that, but yeah, very wise. So how did you find yourself in recovery? Back when we got sober, there really wasn't any other options. So how were you introduced to a way of getting sober?
I was very lucky that my mom made a lot of phone calls, and I guess this is pre-computers. This is pre.
We're talking yellow pages.
Yeah, exactly. So I've never asked her, how did you find these different rehabs? She must have literally yellow paged them. I don't know how she did.
But you came to your mom to say, I have a problem, I need help?
Oh, no, it got to the point, no way. No, it got to the point where there was no hiding. Physically, I was like jaundice because of my drug use. I was like yellow. My eyes were black. My nails were brittle. My hair was like falling out.
Was this dude just due to drugs and weed and
Yeah.
alcohol?
Yeah, I was doing everything. So I had done at that point pretty much everything on a fairly regular basis except for heroin. Because I don't know if you've ever watched somebody shoot up with heroin, but it's really scary. And I remember watching that at a party and I was like, that's a hard pass for me, bro.
Yeah.
No. And so I never did heroin, but everything else. And so I was using a lot of different things regularly. And obviously it was just destroying my body.
Yeah.
And then all the trauma on top of it, right? It's just everything happening.
Yeah.
And it finally got to the point where my mom was like, okay, it's like, you need to go to rehab. So she sent me off to an inpatient rehab. And that did not work out for me, mostly because of withdrawal.
Oh, you need to detox
sucks.
first?
Oh, yeah.
They
and
didn't
that
assess you at the rehab for?
No. So this was like in 96, right? This is like 95. I think I went to that rehab technically at the end of 95. And I kind of got there and then went through withdrawal. And I was also 19, so I was able to sign myself out. I wasn't underage, so I signed myself out. And then that's when things got really bad, if they didn't get bad before. Because then my mom would not let me back in the house. And so I became homeless. Went through a whole bunch of stuff during that period of time.
Wait a minute. You can't just say stuff.
You're a drug addict on the streets. You're doing what you can do to make ends meet. And I wasn't prostituting per se. No, I wasn't going that far, but I was going far enough that it's like the type of thing like you wouldn't want to imagine your daughter doing some of these things. Right. And also just sneaking into sheds to sleep. Opening cars, like sleeping in the back of cars.
Terrifying.
It was terrifying. It was terrifying and it was disgusting. And it was slowly breaking me down, which is for me what I needed. I needed to get to a point where it was like, I'm broken enough that this isn't working. I need to find a different way.
Right.
And so I really feel like signing myself out of that first rehab and hitting bottom even more helped to push me into the second rehab. And so my mom did say, you're allowed back in the house to get the second rehab. And I did. And it was an intensive outpatient. I did not want to do another inpatient.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And that's where, for me, I met these two counselors that were just like, I call them my angels. They just, for whatever reason, worked their magic on me. And
you were ready?
I was ready. I didn't know what I was ready for. So I think that's an important feature for anybody that's doesn't know what they want to do right now. I didn't know what I was ready for, but I knew that my way wasn't working.
Brilliant.
I knew that there had to be something different.
That's the key.
I just didn't know what that was going to look like or what that meant for me. But I had to do something.
Yeah. Did that feel like your period of surrender?
Yes. And then I had a deeper period of surrender. I'd say about 3 weeks into this intensive outpatient program where I had not had a drink or drug for those 3 weeks. Totally miraculously. And I had kind of an aha moment. I had a real
Epiphany.
Where basically yes, exactly. So, because the way that I put it is like the lid came off the trash can. So you take the alcohol and drugs, you take my lid off my trash can. I'm a pretty pissed off person. I'm a pretty angry person and all this stuff is coming out and I'm feeling it and I'm smelling it and I have to look at all this trauma. And I was very angry and acting out. And it got to the point where my one counselor was like, you're going to die. You're so hateful and you're so out of control. You're going to die. And that's where I had this crossroads moment, being basically screamed at in my face by my counselor.
Screamed at?
Oh, screamed at. And I think the thing that was so jarring for me was that this was not the screaming counselor. I had this good cop, bad cop counselor situation. And so I would have expected this from Jim, but I was not expecting it from Al. Al was like the funny, lighthearted, good cop one. And he literally got on his knees and grabbed me by the shoulders and was screaming in my face.
Whoa.
And that for me was kind of like that white light, okay, something needs to change right now.
Wow, that's intense.
It was very intense.
Yeah.
I can remember his face. I can remember him like almost like spitting on me, like he's so close, screaming so loud. Like there's like spit coming out.
Yeah.
And it really, but he quite literally shook sometimes today.
Wow. That's amazing. And so that was it for you, huh? That you stayed sober from then on?
I really did. Yeah. I said, okay, what now? And I just started to listen, right? The saying, take the cotton out of your ears and stick it in your mouth. Shut up. You don't know anything. And I didn't. So I started to listen and I
It's
started to become willing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting because there's kind of like the two schools of recovery. There's the loving, gentle, compassionate kind, and then there's the ass kickers. And it's so interesting. I did not gravitate towards the ass kicker. I had a sponsor who was very direct with me. I'd call her, my husband's name was Bob. Bobby did this, and he did that. She'd be like, I don't sponsor him. I thought that was like the rudest thing I ever heard. Or I'd call her back or something, and she'd be like, "Did you do what I suggested?" And I was like, "No, I haven't done that yet." Click. I was
Love
like,
it.
You're so mean." That
Yeah.
was about as hardcore as she got, but I've seen some people really do well under that sort of sergeant ass
Mhm.
kicking kind of mentorship.
I think it depends on your personality.
It does, yeah.
And I think that there's probably been different times in my recovery that I've needed one or the other.
Yeah.
There's been times when I needed the ass kicking. Probably in the beginning, I really needed to be like, you're an idiot. You don't know anything. Shut up and just go to a meeting type of thing, which was really hard to swallow.
Yeah.
Accurate, but hard to swallow.
Yeah.
And then there were times I did need the softer way, right? The
Yeah.
softer touch. So
Yeah.
I think it's been like an ebb and flow and a process,
Yeah.
but I can definitely take both.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the softer touch came at a good time when I was being too hard on myself. You can go the other extreme, really hard on yourself. And that's when it was nice to have a loving, compassionate sponsor. But I think when people are not willing to take responsibility, that's when sort of the hard edge seems to be helpful.
Yeah. So it is. And so you hope that people around you, people that have more recovery than you, can see that and know
Yeah.
maybe how to play that game a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's messy. Isn't it so messy?
If it wasn't messy, everybody would be where we are. It
Uh,
is messy
It's messy. Yeah. And everybody's different and everyone's coming to the table with a different set of baggage. And
at a different age, at a
yeah,
different relationship status, at a different, all of these things.
different. Yeah. It's messy. It's messy. So you got sober through 12 step. I did too. How did you feel about the 4-step process? Because for me, it was magical. It was like a very pragmatic way to sort out all my baggage.
I still practice. I feel like I practice the 4-step all the time. Yes, no, it was scary. I feel like I put it off like most people do for a long time.
Yeah.
And I had to do it a few times for sure, because there were a lot of either whether it was repressed or forgotten things that would come up years later. I'd be like, oh, I forgot about that person, or that forgot I did that.
Oops.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievably great. It's terrifying. It's really hard to be right. So it's really hard to look at. And I'm also grateful that I only have 4 years of papers of situations. And I mean, I guess I did some when I was younger, but the point is my addiction was very short.
But
It was
intense.
like
Yeah.
a lot of days lived hard and fast. And I burned out really quickly, literally. And so I thought that huge list, it was still scary. But I would say that those lessons, like doing the fourth and fifth, was very much, and then making amends, they was very much something I practice to this day. I do something, or I see something, or I say something, and I address it. I try to address it right away,
Right.
come to a conclusion, and then move on.
Keep it moving. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
it's
love the maintenance steps 10, 11, and 12, the self-reflection, spiritual guidance, and being of service.
passing it on to others. Exactly.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's been fun. I'm teaching my daughters this idea of addressing things right away. And I've done this in front of them for my entire marriage. Whereas if my husband says something or does something and I disagree, right in the moment, right there, I don't care if we're in the middle of the food store, out to dinner, I'll be like, pause. No, I did not like that, or I disagree. I'm like, right there. And we will discuss it usually like reasonably. Sometimes it got a little loud. I can count on one hand the time that we've had a fight because I'm like, we're addressing it right now. We come to a conclusion and then move on. And so my daughters have seen this their whole life. So it's been really fun to watch my older daughter. She's with her boyfriend for a long time. And one time I heard her basically address him. He said something and she was like, no, take that back. That was not appropriate. And he was like, you're right. I'm sorry. And she was like, okay, cool. All right, we're fine now. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud.
Yeah, yeah. The idea of emulating the behavior we want our children to have is they don't not do as I say. What's that saying? Do as I
Yes.
say, not as I do. That doesn't work at
Oh,
all.
well, it is potable. Yeah,
They
exactly.
learn, they teach,
Yeah.
we teach by example.
It's all modeling. It's all modeling.
Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
Well, listen, it's on your book. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I'm going to leave a link to your book in the show notes. But
Thank
if
you.
somebody is wanting to get the book, Pretty Wrecked Confessions of a Teen Addict, where can people find that?
So it's on Amazon. It's on, I think, Target, Barnes and Noble. So
No.
lots of places. It's available as a Kindle, an ebook, audiobook. Spotify, I think, is the best place to get it as an audiobook. But it's available. There's 8 different places. Apple, I think, has it. And then you can always just go to my website, which is tracyviolaauthor.com. So my name, TracyViola author.com. And
Excellent.
there's information in there as well.
Yeah, and I know you do speaking to teens, and I think it's so important for if there are people who have access to schools that need speakers, you're an excellent speaker. I think the kids really need to hear it. They just don't know what they don't know, and if their parents aren't talking about it, they need to be hearing about it somewhere.
Absolutely. And even if their parents are talking about it, I hate to say it, but the kids don't want to listen
They
to
don't
the
listen to their
parents. They'd be way
parents.
more likely to listen to somebody else. So, yes, thank you for saying that because it's really the parents and the kids that going to the schools and saying, hey, we really want the speaker. We really want the speaker that get me to more schools because I can only, reach out to so many schools and they probably have speakers lined up already. So it's really parents and students that need to be advocates for saying, we really want this person.
Yeah, love that, love that. So I'll leave links to how people can get a hold of you, your website, and
Perfect.
your book and everything. But it was so
Thank
good
you
to be
so
with you
much.
today. Thank you so much for
So wonderful to talk with you.